Oh man, can I borrow a playset of Evenly?
Ah, sure, here, take them.
Yo, I need a playset of Nibiru.
You better not use these against me.
Can I borrow your playset of Prismatic Lightning Storms?
What?
Can I borrow your playset of Sanctums?
Just be careful with these.
Yo, I need a couple of Prohibitions.
Is that some sort of new spice? Can't you just use secret rares like the rest of us?
I don't want to use peasant secret rares.
I don't even use them.
Yeah, and I'm gonna help you break them in.
Break them in.
What the
Why do you even want to use them? Obviously, so I can flex with them without actually owning them. Duh. It's like 4 in the morning. I'm on a Red Bull and probably picked a really bad time to start filming. I got like the droopy eyes. Hey guys, it's Tom Box. Welcome to MST.TV, and in this video we're going to be talking about a very important aspect of the game, side deck, and how boring it's gotten. 0 IQ to build up a side deck. A side deck nowadays in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is more or less comprised of a card pool of 16, and within that card pool of 16 they just rotate whatever in and out depending on what's in the format, and it basically tackles every single situation available. And if it doesn't, eventually there'll be like 1 or 2 cards added in per year that would change it up. Outside of that, there might be like 1 spice tech that would come in just to tackle the 1 tier 0 deck. Because it's tier 0, you have to play it to counter it, and outside of that, that's it. And how did side decking actually get to this point? It wasn't like this before. I mean, playing back in like 2006, there was a lot more variety. Even in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! When I started playing, even in Teledad, there was just more variety overall. And nowadays it's like blowout cards. I have to have the blowout card or else I can't win. People are building boards. These disruption cards have to kill the entire turn or else there's no play. And it seems like the reason why side decks have moved in that direction is because of the whole notion of this power creeping notion of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like all card like combos are getting stronger and stronger, control boards are getting harder and harder to break, and therefore the side deck also kept up. And it seems like the only way for like a side deck to keep up is if 1 or 2 cards can handle the big situation, the big boards that are being built. And when it comes to power creeping, if your main deck and the archetypes are getting power creeped, the side deck obviously will get power creeped. But don't forget, the side deck is supposed to be able to handle multiple situations. Therefore, it gets exponentially stronger compared to most of the other cards. To the point that a lot of people are just main decking a lot of the side deck cards anyways, because that's why they're so good. I got a binder here, guys. This is my side deck binder that I've basically collected over time, and within this binder we can kind of take a journey back into the past of how the side deck was. But right now I can even talk about the 16 cards we have, and as long as you have a playset of each of these, you should be good to go for the long run. And as for the upcoming card, it's probably going to be Forbidden Droplets as one of the main ones, because it's, well, obviously it's really good for one thing, and it's not respondable. It seems like more and more cards are like, yeah, you can't respond to these cards because it's a side deck thing, and if it's a side deck thing, you can't touch it. Like Super Poly, Forbidden Droplets, Dark Wheeler no more, they all just have these non-respondable effects so that you can break the board, because there's just the whole notion of negating is just so strong in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, before I jump into my binder, I kind of want to give like a perspective of the competitive versus the less competitive decks out there in terms of like side decking. Like, I guess at the higher tier skill level, like even to some degree, a lot of you guys would say lots of skill involved, but there's also that notion of luck, whether or not you actually get the side deck card in your hand. If you don't draw your sides, it still sucks because your opponent's still going to be able to build that board, and it's quite devastating. But at a less competitive, they rely on those side deck cards to break your board. Otherwise, to them, it's more or less a game of chance whether or not they draw into their Nibirus, their Winged Dragon Raw Sphere mode, their Dark Wheeler no more. If they don't have those, they can't play. And I can understand how it feels like that in terms of if they're using it, like especially like a tier 2 or below deck. If tier 1, usually you can play around stuff like Nibiru, Dark Ruler. That's their incentive. That's why they are tier 1. And whereas the stuff that are below, they can't handle these side deck cards as easily. They get blown out quite quickly just from the activation of 1 card, and you kind of throw their entire strategy out the window. So I kind of get the notion of like, because side deck cards are so strong, it almost makes the game feel a lot more luck-based than it is. And I guess without further ado, let's just jump into my binder so that I don't have to double up on explaining which are the 16 cards that are out there. And if I miss any of them, you can leave it down in the comment section of what you believe is like a side deck staple. This is my side deck binder. And I'm gonna pull out the 16 cards as I go, so let's hope that I can even get there. And if you think that something deserves to be in that 16 card slot, we'll leave it down in the comments section, as I mentioned before. Starting off with the first page. All right, I think I fit the whole thing on the screen here. Okay, we have D-Shifters, which is really good for skipping someone's turn, especially when they can't play with the without the graveyard. So that's really nice. This is like all side deck stuff. Anti-Banish, Gamma Seal, which was really good. Like just Kaijus in general were very good and still pretty decent today if you can fit in your deck. But these are cards that you probably don't mind putting in your side deck just in case. And people can't play without banishing, or they can't play during a banish, so these are kind of the counterintuitive ones. And then there's the Nibiru. This is one of the 16s that we need these days, so I'm going to take this out and put it to the side here. So yeah, we have Nibiru as one of the key 16 because it just wipes the entire board. Like again, it just mass wipe, which is really cool. Okay, a lot of these cards are based off of targeting. Great Old Eagle is really good for just blowing it up yourself with a monster effect and taking control of one of your opponent's monsters. That was amazing. Or just summoning and crashing into your opponent's card and take control of it and gaining control overall. Unfortunately, as Yu-Gi-Oh! Progressed, targeting became a lot more difficult. Like Electric Virus, which takes controls of dragons and machines, you're not seeing it as often. Puppet Plant, which takes control of spellcasters and warriors, you're not seeing it either, because either there's a lot of negation-based stuff, like activate a monster effect, oh, I can negate that, or they just can't be targeted, and that's why these guys fell out. These used to be very popular. This was really good during the 6 Sam format. You can take control of a Shien, providing you with protection for your spells and traps, and I guess Electric Virus was good during the dragon format. In fact, if any deck plays too much dragons, if dragons become a problem and they don't have negation or anti-target, you can see Electric Virus coming into the picture quite easily. This card's actually pretty decent to take control of a Hot Red Dragon Archfiend, because you just activate it, you take it, they can't negate it because it's not on the field, which is why it's a very popular card. Then there's Gemini Imps, just in case discard format comes back, so you can have a playset of that just in case. And Pancratops, this is one of the 16. Even though it's at 1, it's still one of the best ones to fill the last remaining slots, because first of all, it's bigger than the Cyber Dragon, it's got a quick effect, so overall that's one of the 16s I would say, because it does so much more. It's like the power creeped MST. Or rather, like the Power Creep MST probably was Eccentric Archfiend because it was popping monsters and spells. This one is probably that, but with a bigger body, and it's a special summon, so it basically can battle, can pop spells and traps, so that's why it's really good. Then we have Artifact Lancia, another card that I would say is part of the 16. Complete shut out of the banishing, which is similar to Chaos Hunter, but Chaos Hunter requires a special summon, so it's sometimes a bit too slow, and if you remove it off the field, it's not as good, whereas Lancia is a bit more permanent, so yeah, we'll just keep that there. Effect Veiler is actually not part of this package, it got completely creeped out already, but it's still nice to have a playset, and if you can shove it in your extra deck, or not extra, your side deck, just in case you don't have anything to fill, then that's fine. No Material, I thought it would last a little longer, but new Master Rule, this one probably isn't as good anymore. But you might see it come in and out. It's nice to have a playset. And Lancias, you just need to have a lot of them. Scythe, aside from like the Lancia package, or rather the Artifact package, Scythe is just good for shutting out extracts. You see that most of these cards are complete shutouts, and that's part of my 16. And oh, did I not talk about Side Blocker? You have to be really skilled to play Side Blocker. It's kind of like an on-field Mind Crush, but basically you're just preventing your opponent from using key cards. And if you don't know how to use it, don't play it because it's very hard. Denko Sekka is my babe, but this is a complete shut up for the back row. If back row decks become a big problem, you'll probably see Denko Sekka kind of come in and just swoop the field. Normal summon Denko if you play special summon base. If you can play Winged Dragon Raw Sphere mode, you can play Denko because under the same logic, you just don't need your normal summon. Lilith, we don't really care about her. Drone Logbird, the one that comes in and out, yes, it is part of the 16 because it shuts out searching. And if decks are just overreaching when it comes to searching, then you want to shut them out. This is the card to do it. Trap Eater was a very fun card to play during the time of Floodgate. When Floodgates were so popular, to the point that you just want to break it. You can't use spells and traps, and Trap Eater is probably one of the better ones to go for if they got like their Gozen matches, if they got their copy of Rivalry. you can just eat it. Even like there can be only one. Just eat the copy. You have a tuner, go into Crystron, Clifforbrax, that's fine. Spell Canceller is really good against, well, Sky Strikers at the time and other spell-based decks, but not part of it. It comes in and out. These ones, they're just really good. DD Crow, of course, you should probably have this. Like, if you don't know what to side and you want like a basic kind of tutorial on siding, get a DD, just shove some DD Crow in there. It would be really useful. I don't know why that's there. This is from like the Advent calendar. Guankimeru Dragos. Dragos are, I guess they're good for shutting out Lights and Darks, but it's mostly for a dragon deck. Phantasme would have made the cut if we weren't in Master Rule Change, because I guess even now it's still really good. It's actually really close to becoming one of the 16 cards that I would always consider having. And in fact, these are probably the cards that you should probably get a playset of. I know some of them are probably going to be pretty expensive as I get into like the spells and traps, but this is probably a good card to actually keep a set of as well, because links are not obsolete. They're still really powerful. Just access Code Talker. This card kind of sucks now, which is Ghost Reaper Winter Cherries. It's just so specific, and everyone just has such a wide range in their extra deck these days that it's very difficult to hit stuff. Holding Legs, good for blow. Basically, it's a giant Trunade against like set spells and traps, but requires a summon. But why don't you just use Hey Trunade if you want to take out spells and trap cards? Yeah, so there's that. Like this one was just too late for its time, I guess. And then there's Sphere Mode, of course, another one among the 16. Everyone just talked about just throw an egg at it. Yeah, it's fine. This is really good because it's like you got Nibiru and you got Sphere Mode. Depending on which one you can play, it's like, oh, if I can special summon, cool. If I can't special summon, then I want to break the post board, then I will probably go with the Winged Dragon Raw Sphere Mode. Call by the Grave is actually not part of it because it's usually in someone's main deck, so I'm not going to consider it as like a side deck card, but yeah, it would definitely be within that package. Now moving away from the monsters, we're going to go into the spells and traps. Starting with Twin Twisters, I think there's a set. These are all like play sets of Twin Twister, and I got a couple here, so I'll just take one out. So Twin Twister is one of these 16 cards because if you need to blow multiple spells and trap as a quick play, then of course Twin Twister. When it came out, it was obviously one of the best cards. Everyone already knew. And then we go into Mistaken Rest. It's just anti-search. This one, Herald of the Abyss, is just one card removal. It was good, it would have been better, and it's non-destructive removal. Unfortunately, we need mass removal in this game or else it doesn't work. People don't sit on one monster anymore. That's why it hurts. And if people are just leaving IP Masquerena, it's not going to work either because they'll just use this card. They'll just use their effect and just tag it out. And IP Masquerena can easily tag out into like a Link Cross, which means you'll miss either the attribute or the monster type. Swords of Concealing, I probably need 2 more because it's actually a really good card. Just flipping stuff face down, especially Floodgate monsters, Vanity's Fiend, Vanity's Ruler for those Necros decks, those ritual decks, it just gets really annoying. Wiseman's Chalice, depends on the format. If the format is a lot of mirror matches, tier 0 formats, and they require like a summon or a specific monster, you might see this a bit more, especially if they don't require like tributes, or they don't need to be synchro summon, then you'll probably see this a little more. It's really spicy, but you have to control no monsters, which is why it's a little conditional. It's nice to have during the zoo format, that's for sure. Then there's System Down. Machine-based formats, ABCs, you just want to completely wipe them out. And this was also pretty decent against Orcus as well because you just gets rid of the Dingirzu and everything, the Gizmek, everything gets wiped, which is why it's definitely, you probably need a playset of this just in case of the format changing. Of course, Super Poly is part of the 16 cards because Super Poly, not respondable. Everything about not being able to respond is very key. Shared Ride, basically pseudo maxi. Mind Control in a format where you can still target, it's super good. I don't know why this is at 1, but in a format where you can't really target stuff or things get negated all the time, it's really still really good for a 1-for-1 trade. I guess that's why it's still like limited. That's not relevant. Book of Eclipse is really good in case you can disrupt combo, or you can just turn off certain boards, especially like Wind does and stuff. Cosmic Cyclone, for whatever that Twin Twister cannot handle, Cosmic Cyclone can come in and take care of business, especially when you want to banish this thing. During, I guess, Orcus, they could set up their Dingirzu with Buster. You probably want a Cosmic Cyclone to take it out because you can't destroy it anymore. Oh, now we get into the key parts here. Zombie World, just making things zombies, kind of annoying. Necro Valley, probably one of the most annoying field spells. Well, among the top 5 annoying field spells. Forbidden Chalice was a really interesting card because it was such a skillful card, but since it doesn't blow stuff out, it doesn't really matter. Of course, Lightning Storms, obviously, like, if you want to blow up all the back row or take out all the monsters, then you have to play Lightning Storms. People play around it now by setting putting all their monsters in defense position, but the back row is never really safe. Then we have Force. I guess there's a couple cards. Oh, Sanctum, back row shutout for Scythe. Then we have Impermanence, because it's Impermanence. It's just the power creeped out Veiler. Imperial Order, Anti-Spell. These are all necessities that you should have. Floodgates, you don't really have too many of these. I guess we also have Evenly Matches. That's cool too. That's, again, a full blowout. Look at all these cards that people are siding these days. It's just the same stuff over and over again, and you can kind of expect the same card pool. Safe Zone was really fun at the time. Debunks are really cool, but it's too slow, unless you're playing like a Herald deck. Fiend Comedian was really interesting, but it requires specific decks. Wiretap kind of got power creeped up by Red Reboot. Royal Decree is Royal Decree. It'd be really nice. Some people still play it just to turn off certain traps. Chaos Trap Hole is a specific situation with Light and Dark. Eradicators are really good, but only usable for dark decks. Iron Wall, like this stuff is all like side decks over the time. Stormduster's still pretty good. Basket Restrictor for shutting out like Monarchs and True Draco at the time. I'm not sure if it's even good now. Lose one turn's okay, but it's just like, again, it's just one turn. This stuff's okay, Full Force. White Howling was probably one of the more recent traps that was relevant because it shut out Sky Striker, because you just put out Shizuku and then you just flip that thing and they don't have any spells to play for the rest of the turn. Yeah, that's about it. Like Skill Drain, Soul Drain, you can't really I guess Soul Drain can see a bit more play, especially if they rely on monsters in the graveyard. There can be only one of the best Floodgates. Red Reboot's one of the key cards that we definitely need. And I think that kind of covers most of the cards. I'm probably missing a couple of ones. I'll probably bring it up. And then there's like D-Barriers. Kind of want to wait for this one to kind of come back. And then we got like a bunch of super poly-esque monsters, like, well, this is for Anti-Machine, like just dark monsters, zombie monsters, more machines, extra monster zones, fusion monsters with the dark monsters, too many dragons, too many links, and your side deck monsters, like side deck cards should include a bunch of super poly targets as well. I think there's like a couple more, like Earth Golem. And yeah, that's kind of it for the entire side deck here. And the last card that you didn't see was probably Dark Ruler no more. I had to pull that out of a deck because they're in every single deck right now. Anyways, let's go over each of these cards, starting off with monsters. For monsters, we have Nibiru, and the counterpart to Nibiru, I would say, is the Ring Dragon Mouse Sphere Mode. In terms of what they do, destroy the board when it's being built, get rid of the board after it's built. Very hard to play around, but also more difficult condition. Difficult to play around, but can be played around depending on the deck that you have. So that's kind of the trade-off. And you also need to have a normal summon available for this one. Then in terms of the generic usefulness, we have Pancratops, big body or spell and trap destruction. Like if your side deck card doesn't do multiple things, it's almost like not worth siding. In terms of the artifact package, we have Lancet to shut out a lot of the banishing, and we also shutting out of the extra deck, which is why the artifact package is so strong and very popular. And over the last couple of years, you've probably seen these cards endlessly. Then we have shutout of searches from Draw and Lockbird, including draws, and then we also have the generic removal of the graveyard, which is DD Crow. DD Crow probably a lot more popular these days because if someone's paying a cost, DD Crow will turn off that trigger effect that would happen in the next chain after, as long as it was paid as a cost so that it has not triggered yet. I know that there's other hand traps like all the Ghost Girls and everything, but you either main deck those or you don't. And those come in and out of the format, but you should always have a playset of Ghost Girls. That's like hands out. That's just basic Yu-Gi-Oh knowledge. Now into the spell cards. We have Super Poly, which is a not respondable spell card, which is really powerful. Spell speed 4, because you can't respond to it, and it removes a lot of the problem monsters, does not target, and that's why it does multiple things. And then we have Dark Ruler, again, in a similar situation. It's very difficult to respond to this unless you have spells and traps. Like, it's not easy. And the other card coming up would be Forbidden Droplets, which might make it like a 17 card pool. But overall, it's gonna replace some of these things, and you just won't see play on some of these cards anyway. Like Pankratops probably won't see play unless they give us more copies, because it's so good. Eventually probably will come back, but by then the format would probably creeped up a little bit. Okay, in terms of spell and trap removal, we have Cosmic Cyclone for banishing base removal in case Twin Twister doesn't do its job, or you don't want to destroy the card, or the card can't be destroyed. Taking out the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword against like the Orcus players, especially when they put out things Gyuzu when it can't be destroyed, or Twin Twister to take out just multiple back row. But if you want to take out all the back rows, you probably want Lightning Storms that can destroy monsters as well. And comparably, you can also use Evenly Matched to take out most of these cards because it's really powerful. And then to shut out all traps, we have Red Reboot, and since this is activatable in the hand, the timing of these cards, a lot of them have some of the best timings, which is why we use them. And this one just shuts out traps and they just can't play, which is why people don't play Denko as much. Because you don't need to use a summon, and you can just completely shut people out. Imperm is Imperm, which is now your generic negator, which can also shut out columns. As a trap card, it's fast enough. Like most of these trap cards is because they are fast enough, or they just do so much even if they're late. And then speaking of lateness, we have Artifact Sanctum, mainly for the Scythe. And I guess you can also bring out the Lancia as well, but Sanctum is just gotten so popular these days. And if you're gonna invest in like a deck, I think before you even invest in a Yu-Gi-Oh deck, I highly recommend probably getting this stuff first, just so they can play games 2 and 3. Remember, Yu-Gi-Oh is made up of a best of 3, so games 2 and 3 are probably a majority of your games. At least 50% of your games will include a side deck. Some of them would probably include like 66%, because 2 of your games would consist of using the side deck, which is why this chunk here is probably more important than the main deck. Even if you don't have like the strongest of decks, if you're able to stop them, it's still good enough. That's all I got for this video, guys. Have you guys learned anything about the side deck? What you need or don't need? Perhaps you have maybe even discovered a couple of decks you might try in the future. Well, leave it down in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that thumbs up button for me. Really appreciate it. I'm so tired, and I got work in... Oh god, I got work in like 3 hours, and hopefully this video makes it out on time. Anyways, subscribe to the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next one. Don't let anyone borrow your Prismatic Lightning Storms.